is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again with another live viewer questions video. Today we are picking it up from last Sunday, and I believe the question we left off on last was the most talented man in the world. So here we go. Your question. Samurai may not have been a good series, but you can't deny that Antonio was hands down the best character in besides Lauren. They should have tied him up with the villain Decker for the character arc instead of adapting the Sentai note for note. Decker was a Nightlock, that's right, who was also part human, meaning a Nightlock. Sorry, I said Nightlock like there was a T in there, but you know what I mean, Nightlock, yeah. Sorry, it's like I couldn't remember exactly what the creatures were called, so I'm like, what was it again? But yeah, Nightlock, that's what it is. Yeah, because he was half Nightlock, he was also part human, meaning he didn't belong to either and was an outcast. He didn't like any... Oh, I see where you're going with this. You're saying how thematically Antonio, for being the Sixth Ranger and being kind of an outsider to the rest of the Ranger team, has a lot of more parallels with Decker than him and Jaden. That makes sense. Dude, that's creative. Yeah, I think I agree. This actually would have been a lot better. Yeah, because, you know, like you see at the very end, while everyone had a legacy because of their parents, Antonio created a legacy for himself. Yeah, no, I agree. All right. Oh, there's more to this. Having Decker be interested in Antonio due to their similarities would have been much more interesting. Have them be the ones to clash, and one Decker wanted a final duel with instead of Jaden, which again, Jaden and Decker's rivalry made no sense. Yep. Assuming you're just kind of going over... Replaced by Lauren. Yeah, so kind of going on for more examples of the parallels between Antonio and Decker, and yeah, no, you definitely bring up a lot of really good points. Sorry, when it comes to the ones that aren't really questions and they're just like comments, I'll just kind of be skimming through most of them, but you will be able to check them out on the community page. They're not going anywhere, so if you want like more details of what he's talking about when it comes to the comparisons between Decker and Antonio, it'll still be on our community page. And then the next one is from Kenny. Oh my god, you killed Kenny. Have you seen both films Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down? You know, I haven't seen either of them, but I do remember, and I'm sure this is what the question is going to be about and why they're both being brought up. But yeah, I do remember the trailers for both of them being out like around the same time. Now, they had very different release dates, but the trailers for both were playing at the same time. I just remember they both looked like kind of generic action movies, but the way like they look so similar, it kind of looked like one of them was a mockbuster. If you guys don't know what mockbusters are usually like cheap versions of really big Hollywood movies that are like kind of coming out. So that's what you know, Olympus Has Fallen kind of, or one of them kind of reminded me of. But let me get to your question actually, instead of just rambling on. I myself saw both I can't speak right now. Both films when they came out, and they were strikingly very similar. Both involved each lead actor, Gerard Butler and Channing Tatum, finding themselves in a difficult position where they have to protect the president from terrorists. Coincidentally, both films came out just 3 months apart. I found it odd that the terrorist groups in Olympus Has Fallen were ex-military, while the White House Down were Koreans. When both films came out, I couldn't believe that they were very much the same movie, just with a few differences. I do know that Olympus Has Fallen had become a franchise of its own compared to White House Down. If you haven't seen either of these films, what other films have you seen or heard of that are similar? Oh man, I really should just skip to the end of this that are similar and came out the same year. Hercules, because I remember there was a year where 2 Hercules movies were coming out, and again, kind of the same situation with Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down. Basically, you know, they came out so similar at such a similar time that like the trailers were, you know, would be playing at the same time. Sometimes you went to go see a movie, you'd watch a Hercules trailer and then be followed by another Hercules trailer. We kind of have that going on now with Renfield, a movie about Dracula, and in that movie we have a trailer for a movie about Dracula. I can't remember the name of it. I know it's based on the ship that Dracula was on, basically. It's like a part of the chapter from the book of Dracula. It looks cool. It looks good. All right. Another kind of long one. I don't know if this is a question per se, so I'm just going to kind of skim through it, and then if it becomes a question, I'll kind of read it. But this one is from Carlo Bernardo. Time Force really had Eric and Wes getting beat down. Hands down, two best characters, both really fleshed out and unique arcs. They go through tremendous. Okay, so right now you're talking about how Wes and Eric are both fascinating because they go through very different character arcs, but both character arcs feel very complete, and how it kind of leads to them becoming friends in the end, I believe is where you're going, but let me double check. For instance, yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. I actually just thought of this, how Wes and Eric do have, in a way, hear me out here, their relationship does feel very similar to Clark and Lex Luthor, in the sense of one of them has something that the other one really wants, and what pisses him off about it is that the person who has it doesn't want it. Lex Luthor hates Superman because Superman has all the power in the world, but, you know, he doesn't really want this power, you know, at first, before finally accepting it. But, you know, if we're going on Smallville, you know, Superman, he doesn't want this power. He just wants to be Clark Kent, and Lex Luthor hates him for that. And that's kind of the relationship you get with Wes and Eric. You know, Wes has, you know, he grows up in a really rich family, whereas Eric, you know, was adopted. Wes has all this stuff just kind of handed to him, and he wants to try to make his own name. Eric works really hard on his own to make his own name, and he's pissed that, you know, Wes kind of just gives up that opportunity that's all basically handed to him. You know, it's very interesting. I wonder what happened to Eric in the original. Oh, you're talking about in the original timeline. So if the Time Force never went back. Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, I'll read this one. Makes me wonder what happened to Eric in the original timeline. We know Wes dies, but what about Eric? Like, he was originally going to die in the show, but they changed it at the last minute. Makes me wonder if he too was going to die, but the Time Force Rangers coming back alerted history to the point Eric lives. Behind the scenes, we know Eric was originally supposed to die like his Sentai counterpart. That is a very, very interesting idea. I don't think he would have died in the original time, or maybe he would have, because, you know, he would have been a Silver Guardian. But then again, there wouldn't have been some big event in the original timeline because, you know, the main villain, Thrax, and why am I blanking on the main villain in Time Force? I feel really dumb. You know, neither, in the original timeline, neither of them would have been threats, so I think when they were saying Wes is supposed to die, I think it was that he was supposed to die in the new timeline. So in a way, I guess you could say there are 3 timelines of Time Force. One where the main villain never goes back in time. One where after he goes back in time, the Rangers win but Wes dies. Or, you know, 3, the super mega happy ending like in Wayne's World. I guess that's one way you can kind of look at it. I guess I'll finish this. So instead, the writers wanted Eric to just be injured, so because they didn't want to kill off a Ranger again since Kendricks. It's possible that in the original timeline, Alex caused by keeping the 4 Time Force Rangers from going back to save Wes. Eric's fate would have been different by getting sent to the hospital and giving Wes his morpher. He then breaks away from Mr. Collins and works with Wes when he sees him truly outnumbered, which is most likely when he would see him die, whether it be by Ransik was the main villain's name, I can't believe I forgot that, alright, sorry, or the massive amount of cryobots. Okay, yeah. All right, the next one is from another Stewart. All right. Am I the only one who felt that using the this wait, who felt that using the Neo Saban era, Saban tried to redo the Disney era? Ninja Steel felt like it was really a bad copy of Ninja Storm, but ended up being weird and generic. Ninja Storm actually had a real story where we had 3 main rangers who were reluctant ninja students who became rangers after being the last ones to survive an invasion. Later, we had 2 new rangers who were evil as part of another rival school. Just the story in general was really great. Actually, I'm just gonna kind of skim through this. All right, and then here's another example. You're given another example. Saban tried to ruin a beloved Disney era season was RPM in an episode of Super Mega Force where the Rangers literally spent the entire time screaming and harassing a Zord instead of actually exploring the city of Corinth. Yeah, that was a pretty underwhelming episode, not gonna lie. Lastly, Dino Charge and Dino Supercharge was very much the only Sentai adaptation that felt genuine, at least until the whole time travel stuff in the finale. Though while some fans hated it, it did establish the multiverse and still considered as the best series in the Neo Saban era. Yeah, it's really a tie between Dino Charge and Beast Morphers for me. I think maybe Beast Morphers actually, so maybe not a tie. I take that back. And I say that only because even though I think Dino Charge season 1 was really good, I didn't like season 2. I think it really fell apart. And I think I give more credit to Beast Morphers because Beast Morphers got better episode after episode. I mean, yeah, there were a couple episodes that would then get bad, but for the most part, Beast Morphers felt like it was improving, where Dino Charge felt like it was constantly like running out of ideas. But yeah, overall, yeah, I can kind of see how you would feel like they were trying to kind of ruin the Disney era. I don't think that was going through Saban's mind, trying to make the Disney era seem worse or anything like that. I don't think that's what he was thinking at the time. And I say that because I don't think he cared enough to think that much. I think that's giving him a little bit too much credit. Keep in mind, I don't think he really cared about Power Rangers when I think he cared about it when he owned it originally. I don't think he cared about the franchise when he bought it again. And I say that because it seemed like he just had these strict rules for his writers to follow, but then had no input really when it came to the overall story or anything like that. Didn't really care what they did besides that, but he had that strict guideline that he would give the writers, and all that would do was majorly hold them back and stuff. So I don't know. So overall, I think saying he's trying to sabotage Disney seasons is giving him too much credit, basically. All right, next question comes from Roberto. Hot take on Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, is still fun as hell. All right, I'm just gonna kind of skim through this one, and I'll talk about the important points that you make. All right, so you're basically talking about how you overall like the Turbo movie. Some of the things that you enjoyed seeing was Jason and Kimberly returning, and even seeing him get brainwashed by Divatox, which led to a fun fight between Kimberly and Tommy. And then also, you also talk about how, this is supposed to be after Zeo, but we don't really get to see any Zeo Rangers except for the cat morph that she does. And then you also bring up how people really didn't like Justin as the Blue Ranger. And yeah, I can see both arguments. And then, yeah, the whole thing with Rocky. I do think that the way they wrote Rocky out of the movie was pretty pathetic. They should have given him like kind of a heroic kind of send off, especially because they had the budget too. So having him just like, screw up a kick and injure himself, just felt disrespectful, not just to the character, but I mean, just, I don't know. I feel bad for Steve Cardenas because it's like, when people ask, oh, how'd your character leave the show? I mean, that might just be like a weird thing to say is, oh, you screwed up a kick. I don't know. Oh yeah, and then one last thing that I do want to bring up that you brought up here is that unlike the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, this one actually, its production did, come from the show. Like it did look similar to the show, using most of the same props. The only big difference, of course, were the foot soldiers. What were they called again? You had it here, Piranhatrons. That's right. Yeah, it's that they looked actually better in the show, I think, which is kind of funny. But other than that, yeah, it's interesting that you could do a full budget, Hollywood movie, but still use the props from the show. I actually really like that, and I kind of, not that I have anything against the costumes they use in the MMPR movie, but I'm a dude that loves continuity, so I actually would have appreciated the movie a little bit more if the costumes were more show accurate and if it actually fit into the show's canon. But that's just me. That's the thing I did like about Turbo, is that it was canon to the show. It like helped set up the next season, and I like that. I'm a continuity nerd. Jericho Gonzalez asks, what did you think of the first real look at the new Cosmic Fury morphers and weapons? Okay, so I hear people have mixed opinions about the costumes, and I totally see where everyone's coming from. I want to wait until we see a trailer before I make my final judgments on the costume, but for now, I just think they're not great. I think they're okay, but I feels something's missing, and I think that is a symbol in their suit, and I'm sure that will come by the end of the season, or heck, maybe even in the first episode, because we still don't know for sure, how the show's gonna go, because we haven't even gotten a trailer. So I don't know. I just need to see something on the costume, for it to like flow better, but we'll see. Maybe the costumes will look so much better when we're watching it filmed like in an episode, but we'll see. Actually, add more to this. Let me just skim through this and bring up any points you might have. Oh, wait, right. You were talking about the weapons. Sorry, I was going to get to the weapons, but then I got sidetracked talking about the costumes. So, yes, I think the weapons look incredibly badass, and I think the people that they are assigned to, the Rangers who have, their weapons, I think those weapons fit them perfectly. I think it's gonna go great with their, fighting styles and everything, and I can't wait. They look great. And you saying that they look amazing. You love the attention to details. The weapons look huge. The morphers having the lightning bolt on the wrist strap. The wrist strap looks so clean. Symbolizes the you're saying it symbolizes the entire franchise legacy. That's really cool. And yeah, it's going to be all original footage. So yeah, it looks like you're just talking about your hype when it comes to Dino Fury and Cosmic Fury, and I couldn't agree more, man. This may be the last season, but who knows? Personally, I hope, this version of the show continues to go, but, time will tell. Time will definitely tell. All right, next one comes from Dino Knights. Fight for your rights. My revisited thoughts on Once and Always. Oh boy, here we go. Dang, you have watched it over 20 times since it has come out, and it's still absolutely amazing. I've seen it 3 times. So I saw it my first time by myself. Second time, I begged my girlfriend to watch it with me, and she was kind enough to. And then the second time, I didn't beg. I just brought it up, assuming he would say no. I'm hanging with my buddy, and I'm like, oh, hey, you want to watch the 30th anniversary special? I expected him to say no. He said yes. He might have just been super polite or something. It was so clear he didn't want to watch it, but he didn't say no. So I'm like, Okay. Because I think like also a part of me was just so curious what it would look like through the perspective of someone who did watch the show. Because I love it as someone who keeps up with it, but I'm curious as someone who's like, you know, watched it only once when they were a kid and they're watching it again as an adult. I was curious what he would have thought, and I think he said it was okay. I don't remember, but I loved it, but not enough to watch it 20 times though. There's a lot of attention to detail, classic weapons, Lord Red from sequences. Yes. And then, yeah, you talk about Walter Jones being a creative consultant. Love it. Yeah. Also talked about how Kat referencing Tommy and making sure that he will come home to JJ, basically implying that her and Tommy are married. I do wonder. I think if I remember correctly, I did hear it was a David Yost decision for them to not specifically say that they were married, but to only imply it. And it may just be because of his series that he's working on. It was Quantum something, not Quantumania like Ant-Man. It was like Quantum Continuum, I don't know, but basically he's working on his own like kind of Power Rangers continuation, and that was I think that was just something he didn't want stepped on, I guess. There's actually a saying in the fan fiction community, or I don't know if this is still around. I only know this because of my sister who used to read and write fan fiction, but she would say that if your fan fiction has been basically retconned by something that happens in the show, you've been Jossed, and that was because I guess that would happen a lot with Buffy and Angel fan fiction. Joss Whedon would immediately retcon it, or basically write something into the show that would show that couldn't be canon. Sorry, that was super random. I still can't believe after 2 disappointing anniversary specials in the Neo Saban era, never thought we would finally have an awesome anniversary special that checked every box. Simon Bennett is the showrunner, and Hasbro as the head boss did such an incredible job creating this anniversary special to celebrate 30 years of the franchise. I absolutely cannot wait for Cosmic Fury to arrive, and I have no doubt that it's going to be just as incredible as Once and Always. We can definitely hope. And he ends it with saying a special thanks to Simon Bennett and the team at Hasbro for the 30th anniversary special. All right, next one comes from Gabriel. So it's been 6 months since Black Panther Wakanda Forever came out, and I still absolutely love it. I really love it. I really love the tribute to Chadwick Boseman, and and how you could still feel his presence even though we could no longer see him on the screen except for the mural. Yeah. I agree. So basically you're talking about everything that you really love about this movie, and I agree with all of these. I think Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think it was definitely one of the better Marvel movies from Phase 4. Again, I've kind of been on record saying that I don't think Phase 4 is quite as bad as everyone makes it out to be, but I can definitely see where the disappointment comes from. Phase 4 in a lot of ways is like Phase 2 of Marvel, but if Phase 2 of Marvel had more movies, basically. I say that because Phase 2 of Marvel was pretty mixed for a lot of people, and a lot of people tend to forget that. So, maybe you could say that the Marvel movies are like the opposite of the Star Trek movies. You see people say that the Star Trek movies, the odd number ones are the bad ones and the even number ones are the good ones. It's like the opposite with Marvel phases. Maybe the odd number Marvel phases are going to be the good ones, and the even number Marvel phases are the bad ones. Although I didn't really like Ant-Man 3, so maybe that disproves it already. All right, where was I? Here I am. Since it came out, Lightspeed Rescued has been one of my personal favorite seasons for many years, and we all know the Titanium Ranger was the first American exclusive Ranger, but something has got me wondering about the season. When it came to... All right, I'm wondering if there's a question here. Oh, I think there is. Awesome. So why specifically does that season So why specifically that season does the first American exclusive Ranger? I mean, the past seasons could have done the very same thing, but didn't. Could it be what the footage offered? The footage offered allowed them to do with that thing? It's a good question. Probably mixture of the footage and the budget that they had. I know that before Lightspeed Rescue we had Lost Galaxy, and I can tell you that probably the biggest reason they didn't have any American original Rangers in that season was because of the production, because I remember hearing it was a disaster. Even though it was like the biggest budget Power Ranger season, some episodes were being written very last minute, like in the middle of filming. Others would be in the middle of finishing a film, or an episode like the day before it airs. Basically, yeah, there were just a lot of production issues when it came to Lost Galaxy. So I assume it would have been too much to just add a whole nother prop that the people would have had to work on, by adding an original American Ranger. So that's my guess. Just the production of the show kind of prevented it. The budget was there, but the production scheduling and everything wasn't. And then you go on to talk about how there was no Sixth Ranger in Lightspeed Rescue. And, that might have been why. Because even though there technically wasn't a Sixth Ranger in Lost Galaxies, you did have what was his name? The Knight. The one that Wes's brother turns into later. Totally forgot. But yeah, that question came from Power Rangers Legacy. I realized I forgot to say their name, so I apologize. But yeah, overall it was a good season, and yeah, the Titanium was really cool for a first design, original Power Ranger, definitely. All right, next one is, or actually the last one is from Abase. Personal opinion, after Cosmic Fury comes out and we now have to wait for Jonathan Entwistle's reboot to be ready, unless somehow we get a 31st season as a way to hold us over until the reboot. I really don't like that the entire future after Cosmic Fury will all come down to general public reacts. We already lost a sequel to the 2017 box office 2017 Power Rangers because the box office flopped because people didn't care for it, and Saban planned ahead before the first movie came out. While still being on Netflix, the safest and best choice than being on Nickelodeon or in theaters. I'm really afraid that the future Power Rangers might end sooner than we thought if casual viewers again don't care about the second attempt to reboot. Okay, so you're worried that because now the show is no longer just focused on toy sales and that kind of thing, and that there's no longer a long-term contract keeping it going. You're worried that general audiences may not like the new Power Rangers, and therefore Netflix won't really see a profit or a reason to keep it going. And it is technically a possibility. I'm not worried about it though. I do think that, at the very most, Power Rangers is super iconic, and if it doesn't do well, if this reboot doesn't work, we're just gonna need patience, because I don't think it'll ever die. I think that, if it fails and we see the end of Power Rangers, it may last for, a few years, 5-10 years, but I do think the franchise will eventually come back, because, that's what Hollywood does, man. They recycle ideas. They wait a little bit when something flops to go back to it about 10 more years later to see, hey, maybe there's nostalgia for it now, possibly. They're going to keep doing that, even with Power Rangers. So don't worry, it'll never die. I can guarantee you. I can guarantee it. But that does it for the live viewer questions today. Everyone, thank you so much for submitting all of them. Sorry I didn't read through all of them all the way through. I'm a very slow reader, especially when it comes to looking at tiny text. I apologize for that. I probably need glasses if I'm being honest with myself. But all that being said, Thank you guys so much for listening, and the questions are still up. If you didn't like the fact that I skimmed through them and you wanted to see what those questions were specifically, you can definitely read through those. But yeah, overall, I do ask that next time. Let's start, actually asking questions instead of just giving your opinions. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm always down to hear your thoughts and opinions on certain things, but try to squeeze in a question with that instead of just like, ranting about what you love or what you don't love, things like that. But yeah, have an awesome day, and we will see you next week for A+ Hero Report. Definitely stay tuned, and I will catch you guys later. But remember to keep it A+. Goodbye.